Hi guys, I recently rewatched this film, Backbeat, which mostly focuses on Stuart Sutcliffe and his relationships with John Lennon and Astrid. And the first time I watched this film was actually when I wasn't even a fan of the Beatles. It was a really long time ago, and I was a fan of Ian Hart, who stars as John Lennon in this film. He also stars as John Lennon in another film called Hours in Time. And I was a fan of Ian Hart, and I got this film and Hours in Time because of him. And I watched them without really knowing much about the Beatles. And after seeing the films, I became really interested in the Beatles, and that's what started my obsession with them. I'm no longer a fan of Ian Hart, but I am a huge fan of the Beatles. So I always think it's very unusual the way I got into the Beatles. My parents never listened to them when I was little, so I didn't really know their music until my teen years. And so I watched this film again for the second time just recently, and I loved it even more than I did the first time because I appreciated it a lot more. I understood more what was going on, being a huge fan of the Beatles now, and it has inspired me today to film a video about Stuart Sutcliffe. If you're interested in learning more about Stuart Sutcliffe, I also recommend this book. It's called The Beatles Shadow, Stuart Sutcliffe and His Lonely Hearts Club, and it's written by his younger sister Pauline Sutcliffe. And a lot of what I know about Stuart I learned from this book. Stuart Ferguson Victor Sutcliffe was born on the 23rd of June 1940 in Edinburgh, Scotland. His father was Charles and his mother was Martha, also known as Millie, because his former wife was also called Martha, so she went by the name Millie. He had two younger sisters, Pauline and Joyce, and three older half-brothers and one older half-sister from his father's first marriage. His father moved to Liverpool in 1943 to help during the war, and he signed on as a ship's engineer, so he was away from home a lot as Stuart was growing up. Stuart was brought up at 37 Egbert Drive, which I think might now be a hotel. I did look into it before, and I think that each room represents a part in Stuart's life, but I'm not completely sure. Stuart attended Parkview Primary School, then Prescott Grammar School, and later the Liverpool College of Art. Stuart first met John Lennon through his friend Bill Harry, and they all attended the college together. Stuart loved art. It was really important to him. He was a very talented artist, and he was getting a reputation as an artist to watch. Stuart would help John with his art skills, and the two of them became very close friends. In fact, John considered Stuart as one of his best friends. Stuart's sister Pauline said John always said that he looked up to Stuart because Stuart always told him the truth. When Stuart moved out from home, he lived with his friend Rod Murray in a flat at 9 Percy Street before being evicted. Stuart then moved to Hillary Mansions at 3 Gambia Terrace, and John later moved in with him. Stuart sold one of his paintings, the Summer Painting it was called, for £65, which back then was a lot of money, and John Lennon convinced him to spend his money on a bass guitar because at the time John's band needed a bass player. Stuart then joined the band, which now consisted of John, Paul and George, but Stuart couldn't play the bass and his fingers bled from practicing. He was worried he would damage his hands and it affect his artwork, and at times while performing on stage, Stuart would actually turn his back to the audience so they didn't see him playing the wrong chords. And when they auditioned for Larry Parnes, he did exactly this. And Larry Parnes said that he would hire them, but without the bass player. And John said no, which was a big shock because this was a big thing for them back then. But John didn't want to do it without his friend, which just shows how close John was to Stuart. John, Paul, George, Stuart and then drummer Pete Best went to Hamburg in Germany, where they played in clubs. Many of the days at the clubs, they were there for almost 12 hours. Stuart caught a lot of attention from fans. He wore trademark sunglasses and tight trousers, and sang Lead to Love Me Tender as he was a huge Elvis fan. Stuart met Astrid Kircher in the Kaiserkeller, where she had gone to see the Beatles perform. In Pauline's book, she said that Astrid had been instantly attracted to Stuart. Stu looked quieter than the others. I couldn't see Stu's eyes behind those dark glasses, but I knew, somehow I just knew, he was looking at me. I also knew that one day there would be something real between us. And in one of Stuart's letters, he wrote about Astrid saying, "I never find happiness for long with a girl. I do love a girl, but I will speak little of her, for my mind would overflow with tenderness. She's like a rose that has run its dark leaves over the wall to look at the sun, complexion slightly pale, eyes full of fire, and now full of dew, her hand white, beautiful, tiny, trembling. I am a flame, a woman's beauty is not, as the priests say, a temptation of the devil, but may, when in her spirit, work miracles." Stuart got engaged to Astrid in November 1960, and he moved in with her in her family's home. And after meeting her and falling in love, he decided to leave the Beatles. John was really unhappy with this decision, and at first George was as well, and I love what George says here in a letter to Stuart. He says, "Can't you come home sooner? If we get a new bass player, it will be crummy, and it's no good with Paul playing bass." Stuart went on to attend the Hamburg College of Art, and Eduardo Pelosi said he was very gifted and intelligent and had become one of his best students. While studying in Germany, Stuart started to suffer from really severe headaches, so severe that he ended up collapsing in one of his art classes. He saw lots of doctors about it in Germany and the UK, but none of them could determine the exact cause of his illness. His condition only worsened, and on the 10th of April 1962, Stuart died. The cause of death was a cerebral hemorrhage from a ruptured aneurysm. He was 21 years old. On the 13th, Astrid told the Beatles about Stuart's death, and John Lennon was hit the hardest. And in a letter to Stuart's mum, Astrid wrote that John is just crying his eyes out, that he knows Stuart and loves Stuart so much that he understands how she feels. In the Beatles Apology 1, which was released in 1995, Stuart plays bass on 3 of the Beatles tracks: Hallelujah, I Love Her So, You'll Be Mine, and KN. The Stuart Sutcliffe estate also sells memorabilia and artefacts of Stuart Sutcliffe. I was actually looking at the website today, and there's quite a lot of things I really want from there. They look really cool. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!